Hey, what is up YouTube? Today I'm going to be doing a header wrap torture test. Now what I have in front of me is 3 different header wraps. I have the DEI Titanium header wrap and I have 2 generic brand fiberglass wraps. Not really too sure where they came from. I know they're just my dad's in the garage. He said I could use them for the test just to see what the different materials are against each other. So what is going to be on the left is that DEI Titanium. And what that is a basalt. It's like a volcano rock. They melt it down, put it into fibers, and then they weave it up into the wrap. And it's supposed to retain more heat, be more heat resistant, and just be an all-around better wrap to work with. As you can see with that one, it's very flexible. You don't need to wet it or anything, unlike the fiberglass one, especially that dark fiberglass. That black one, you really need to soak it up with water in order to move it around before you really do anything. And then the middle is going to be the black fiberglass. Again, don't know which brand it is, but they're probably pretty much going to be all the same, other than a few additives probably as far as the coating or whatever. But yeah, it's pretty stiff. I mean, it can be flexible once you break up the fibers a little bit, move it around. And then on the right's going to be the white fiberglass wrap. That one's pretty flexible. I don't think that one's used for headers. I don't know what it's recommended for or what the heat ranges for it are, but we'll just use that one too in this torture test. For this torture test, I'm going to try to make it kind of scientific. I don't have any measurements as far as how hot it's going to be. I don't have a laser thermometer or anything. So it's just going to be what can it withstand. So what I'm going to be testing is the heat, its durability, and I guess just different heat cycles, and also let's say for instance if you're driving through water while the engine's warmed up, just something like that. And so what I'm going to be doing is exposing it to high temperatures. So it's going to be an open flame from a propane torch. I'm going to look up how hot propane torches get. I'm going to post it about right here. And number 2, I'm going to wrap it with something and just drag it or rub it against it, see if it frays at all. And the third test one I'm going to do is I'm going to heat it up with the flame. Now I'm going to dunk it in cold water, just if you were going to drive through a puddle while the engine is warm, to see if it makes it brittle or anything. And also some of the small things I'm going to be looking at is any color changes, any change in the material, if it's more brittle. Also if it tends to fray due to heat or anything else, or the dip in the water. Now I know the header wrap's not intended for the open flames, but this is again going to be a torture test just to see what it can withstand and what it can do. So let's get started. Alright, the first one I'm going to test is the DEI Titanium wrap. I'm just going to set it on here. I'm going to let it go with open heat for 30 seconds and see if it even does anything. If not, I'll bump it up to a minute. Let's hope I just don't run out of propane. Alright, 30 seconds is on the clock. Alright, that's 30 seconds. Let me turn the heat off. Alright, there's virtually no discoloration at all. I mean, you could kind of see it on the camera where the heat was hitting it, but as far as making it have any carbon buildup or anything, it's not there, is it? It's definitely warmer, but it's not as hot. Now, look at that. It's definitely firmer. It's kind of weird. So on this first test, it was on there for 30 seconds, no discoloration. Now I'm just going to bend it, see if it does anything. Oh yeah, it's breaking the fibers. Now I don't know if that does anything as far as, holy cow, where it was directly getting it. These are extremely brittle. It's just falling apart. Now again, I know this is not what the header wrap is meant for, as a heat from a direct flame, and I'm sure this is like a little over 1,000 degrees. I'm not too sure how much it is, to be honest. But yeah, they did some damage. Okay, so now I'm going to do the black fiberglass header wrap. See if it does anything. On the other one, it didn't burn my fingers at all, so we'll see what this one does. 30 seconds on the clock. right away. I can see some smoke coming off of it. It's actually kind of catching fire. Alright. Now this one definitely discolored a little bit. It just has like a gray shine to it. I'm going to let it cool down a little bit before touching it. It definitely feels, I mean it's already stiff, but at that spot definitely feels a little stiff. Okay, it's not hot anymore. Alright, so I'm going to bend it. Same thing happens. So it makes me wonder if with these header wraps, through repeated heat cycles, again, it's not going to be getting this hot, but if they start to become more fragile to the touch, so like if you were to take them out and rub them up against something, then it might mess them up, you know. Huh. Yeah, this one did a hole, but it didn't do near as much damage as this one. That's pretty bad. So now I got this white one, and let's get her going. Okay, it started to melt this one, so it makes me wonder if this is actual fiberglass or if it's another material. I don't think this is, I don't know, honestly, I don't know if it's fiberglass or not. So it shouldn't have melted, but we'll see once it cools off. And what I noticed on this one too, again, this might not be a fiberglass, but it really does look and feel like it, is that it's holding the heat a while. Like the other ones, it took a few seconds and I was able to touch it. This one's still pretty damn hot. Now, it's still a little warm. I'll just bend it again. Yeah, this one's completely broken. Yeah, it's just gonna completely break off. Not too sure of this material now. I assumed it was fiberglass. Oh, actually it might be still. Because when I threw it, it sounds like glass. So, might have just melted it, to be honest. So now seeing that last one melt, and in fact it is fiberglass, just by the way it sounds when it fell on the table. I'm going to go for a minute now to see if the other two materials start to melt, and if so, then we know it can't really withstand that much heat for a minute. Alright, I'm going to start in a different spot now. And this is the DEI Titanium wrap for 1 minute. Okay, I'm going to let this one cool off before I start to touch it and mess with it. Looks like there's a little bit of discoloration, and it is black in the center where the cone was on the flame, so it's the hottest point. Now with this stuff, again, this was on the heat for a minute with direct flame, and within 10 seconds afterwards I'm able to touch it. It's cool to the touch, and which is really good because that means it dissipates the heat off too whenever it's not keeping the heat in. So whenever you turn off the car, it's not going to hold the heat in there on the headers. It's just going to cool off with the headers as well. Okay, it seems a lot more brittle now, as expected. Let's see all those fibers breaking. Yeah, it's going to do the same thing as last time, just make a hole. Now it's kind of weird that this stuff breaks like this. I'm hoping, since it doesn't move, and that actually through the heat cycles, it gets hard around the headers and actually holds its form. But as far as if I need to take them out again, if it rubs up against something and it's going to break off like that, that kind of scares me. But I guess time will tell if I need to take off the headers again. Alright, time to do the black one again. This one's for a minute. Now this one definitely smokes more than the titanium wrap. Alright, I'm going to let this one cool off before I mess with it, of course. And then we'll see the results. Now this one has a visible discoloration. It's more turning like a white or a gray. And it's brittle, but not as much again. So it kind of makes me wonder if it held the heat that much without melting, unlike that other one. I wonder what kind of glass it is, or if it has other materials in this type of wrap, or this other wrap is just bad quality. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to test the wraps of how well they do against any abrasion. Like let's say you're driving in a car and your header scrapes on the ground. Well, probably is going to mess it up pretty bad, but if that ever happens, I mean, I guess we could test it. It's not going to be that extreme, but just to know what's going to happen. Now another scenario is when I was putting the headers back in, when I just got them wrapped, and I noticed parts where it rubbed when I was trying to get it up in there to hook it up to the head. It rubbed a little bit, and I saw it kind of fray a little bit in certain spots, and so I just want to test to see how much it can do, and if the other fiberglass ones can resist a little bit of abrasion. And since I just thought of it, I'm also going to test also after it gets a heat treatment, so we'll see if it's more or less resistant to any abrasion. So what I have here is a new piece of the titanium wrap, and what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take these nails. Sorry Dad, I know this is your workbench, but this isn't the worst it's seen. So plus there's a ginormous hole right here if you haven't noticed. So I'm just going to take it, just nail it in a little, just to provide some sort of hold. That'll do. It's kind of messing it up a little bit, but yeah, that'll do. So I'm just going to take this 50 grit, I think it's for like a disc sander, and just going to rub up against it. It's going to simulate concrete or metal surfaces. It'll be a little too rough to simulate any metal surfaces, but you get the point. And so I'm just going to take it with one swipe. Okay, it's already starting to fray. 2. It frayed pretty bad. I mean, I don't know what else to replicate as far as to show any abrasion, but that's what I can think of right now. So yeah, and I have it on this part to replicate it being around a pipe. So as you can see, this one frays quite a bit. It's not very strong as far as any abrasion to it. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Alright, so I have this one nailed up just like the other one. This one seems to hold a lot stronger up on top. This one seems to be an all-out pretty stout wrap. I mean, it's pretty tight woven. So let's see what it holds up to the 50 grit. I'm going to do it again. 1. Yeah, that's very minimal fraying. I mean, that's really good. Seems like this would last a long time if you were to have it on your vehicle. This one. Now it does seem to be a little brittle at that part, but it's kind of expected since it broke all the fibers up on top. But as far as what the other one looks like, it still seems really strong. It may just be more cosmetic. It may look worse than what it actually is, because this seems a lot stronger than what this does, even after the abrasion test. Alright, so this is the white wrap. It's not as strong as the black one. It's around the same as far as the titanium wrap. And I'm going to do the same thing again. 5 swipes with this 50 grit. It looks like it did more damage than the black. Far less damage cosmetically than the titanium wrap. Still feels really strong compared to the black one on the crease of where it was of where the sandpaper hit it. This is going to be from worst to best as far as the damage, in my opinion. This one frays quite a bit. This one's not as much. This one very minimal, but this one does feel a lot weaker on that seam of where it was hit with that sandpaper. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to heat up the spot where I'm going to hit it with the sandpaper, just to mimic the heat cycles it's going to go through on the engine. Again, this is not the heat that is going to see from the exhaust pipes, but here we go. Now I'm not burning the wood, I don't know, it may look like it, but the flame is above the wood. I can already tell it's stiffer again, so I'm gonna see if it even changes. Now I did it from the underside, just because that's where it's gonna be seeing the heat, you know. It's from the inside of from the pipe, so it's gonna be on the inside of the wrap compared to the outside. Now I'm gonna take it, do 5 swipes again. Okay, it actually cut through the wrap. So the wrap definitely got a lot weaker. All the fibers broke. It's hanging off by this one. So yeah, as you can see, it is a lot weaker after the heat treatment as far as resisting any abrasion. So let's move on to the black one. Same thing with the black one. I'm going to heat up the bottom where that crease is going to be. Alright, it's actually catching fire, or the flame is going through it. I think it's just the gases from it, but I could be wrong. This one's really smoky. Probably could have done a better way of heating this up, but since I did it with the first one, I gotta do it with the other ones just to keep it similar. I'm gonna let it cool off before putting it on the wood again, because it seemed to have some residue on the wood. So when I set the other one down, it heated it up, causing it to melt, or whatever residue is on the table, not the fiber itself. Okay, that should be good. Alright, I'm gonna take it again. Alright, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a lot of excess fiber that came off of that. Doesn't look terrible like the first one. Definitely didn't go all the way through, but I do want to see how many swipes it takes for this sandpaper to completely go through this header wrap. So I was on 5. So 12. 12 and it goes all the way through. Hopefully this one doesn't melt on me again. This one doesn't seem to have as high as a melting point as the other ones. This one seems to have a pretty low melting point. Oh, this one actually caught fire. Okay. Either that or the wood caught fire. Actually, yeah, the wood kind of caught fire, but don't tell my dad. Okay, this one almost went all the way through. I see a few holes in there. Close. Again, let's see how many it takes. That was 5, if I counted correctly. I can't remember. So it took 8. Again, this isn't really scientific. I could have just been giving different pressures each time because of human error, but this kind of gives you an idea of what is going on here. So as you can see, the DEI titanium wrap cannot withstand the heat cycles and abrasion. It went completely through just with 5 swipes with the sandpaper. It's not very good, but then again, I guess you gotta give up a few things for it to have that high heat control, because it does have a higher heat control than the fiberglass. Now with the black fiberglass, that one did the best. It didn't go all the way through until 12 swipes with the sandpaper. The white one is kind of the runt of the bunch. So that one withstanded a little bit better than the titanium wrap, but it still wasn't great. So now what I'm gonna do, and this is gonna be the last test, is I'm gonna go with the direct heat, and while it's still hot, I'm gonna dunk it in water. And what that again is gonna replicate is driving your vehicle through a puddle with the header wrap while your engine is up to temp. Maybe you're doing a lot of off-roading, so your pipes are gonna be hot, therefore your wrap is going to be hot as well. If it gets a splash, what it's going to do, is it going to make it brittle? Is it going to make it fall apart completely? I don't know. I want to see. So let's test it out. Okay, I got the titanium wrap and I heat it up again like the other ones. I'm going to do about 30 seconds again, and I'm going to go and dunk it immediately into the water. Now the water is room temperature. It's a little cold outside, so I would say it's more towards the 60 degree. Because it just came out of the faucet. So I don't think it really matters too much on the temperature of water, because depending on where you are, it's going to be different as far as your results driving through a puddle. Because if it's hot outside, the puddle is going to be more towards 80 or 90 degrees. If it's cold outside, the puddle is going to be 30 or 40 depending on what the ambient temperature is. So again, that's really going to vary. So that's why I'm not too worried about the water temperature. So that's why I'm just doing room temperature right now. So let's get started. I'm just going to immediately dunk it once it gets to 30 seconds. Hopefully I don't burn myself. Now what this does hopefully is give it a shock from heat to cold. I know with metals like a high carbon steel, if it's really hot and then you dunk it in water or like in oil, just super cool it hardens it. So I wonder if that's going to do the same here and make it even more brittle. So let's see. It is wet right now, obviously cool to the touch. Yeah, it seems to just break right in half. Yeah, that's just pretty terrible. Again, this is not what this wrap is meant for. I just wanted to see what kind of abuse it can go through. And I'm sure with it being on the headers, it's going to be fine. Also because I'm not going to be sitting there picking at it, you know. It definitely broke up a lot faster. Now I got a mess to clean up. My hands are dirty. Okay, now time for the black fiberglass wrap. Again, this is going to be 30 seconds. Fiber is wet, and as you can see, and this is why you're supposed to wet it before you put it on, especially this material, it becomes a lot more flexible. But let's see what happens here. Honestly, it's a little worse, but it's not terrible. The hole's definitely bigger. It's easier to break apart the fibers, but as far as compared to the titanium wrap, it's definitely less drastic. Alright, the last one to test is this white wrap. And this is the one that melted at 30 seconds. So even if it melts, I'm still going to do it just to keep it at 30 seconds. This one discolors a lot. Oh, it just blew through. Okay, you can see the discoloration. Obviously you can see here, it's kind of white, you can't really see it. But yeah, it melted again just with 30 seconds. So it definitely has a lower melting point than the black and the titanium wrap. It's even more brittle as expected, just breaking apart. So that heat shock is definitely putting a toll on this wrap. So I can see running through any puddles. Sorry, my hand was probably in the way this whole time. So I can see running through puddles and stuff. Probably isn't the best idea when you have wrap, just because it heat shocks it. Like it puts it through a shock, and that's not good for the integrity of it, as you can see, and it just makes it more weaker. So as you can see, the white header wrap, just the generic one, did absolutely terrible. I wouldn't even recommend it if I knew what the brand was, just because it can't withstand the propane heat and that flame. I looked it up, it was 3,600 degrees Fahrenheit. Added oxygen, obviously it's going to be hotter, but this is just propane. So yeah, it has a melting point somewhere lower than 3,600. It melts pretty quick. 3,600 degrees, that's pretty hot. The black withstood it. The titanium withstood the heat for up to a minute, direct heat, no melting whatsoever. They did become brittle, which is kind of expected. The titanium was more brittle than the black fiberglass wrap, which is probably what you're most likely going to be seeing for any fiberglass wrap for a vehicle. Durability wise, the black fiberglass wrap did amazing. Not too sure as far as if it holds in the heat better than the titanium wrap. I guess that's another test I can do. But as far as durability, that wrap just blew everything out of the water. The titanium wrap is really good though as far as usability. When I put it on my truck, the video is actually up there in the link, but when I put it on my truck, it was super easy to put on, no problems, virtually no problems. And that was the first time I ever wrapped any headers whatsoever. But it kind of scares me on how brittle it gets with the heat cycles. Again, I won't be seeing this much heat, but even just heat, hot and cold, it's going to make it become more brittle and more stiff. And especially if I run through any water puddles, it's going to get even more brittle. And so if there's any rocks that go up and hit it, it could just blow straight through the wrap itself. So I kind of am worried about that. There is a silicone spray you could get on that. I wonder if that's what that's for, is for that scenario. But yeah, so the clear winner of this one is the black header wrap. Second is the titanium wrap. And then third is that white wrap of who knows what it is. That one just sucks. But yeah, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you like my content, don't forget to subscribe. And I will see you on next video.